Imagine you're Joseph Strauss in 1933. You're standing on the edge of the Golden Gate Strait, and you're looking across the water. And your job is to do the impossible. Your job is to build a bridge, a structure that will be at constant war with the forces of nature. Now, Joseph Strauss, the architect of the Golden Gate Bridge, one of the most beautiful bridges in the world, may I add, was no novice. He knew that a bridge doesn't just come out of nowhere because you bolt some steel together. He knows to build a bridge, there are three key ingredients. It requires skill, it requires time, and it requires effort. Now, as an engineer up here today, I would love to give you a very long technical lecture on bridges. But today I want to talk about a different kind of engineering. I want to talk about the architecture of human connection, how we connect with people. Because connecting with people is no more difficult than building the Golden Gate Bridge. And connecting with people relies on those same basic three pillars. To connect with people, it takes skill, it takes time, and it takes effort. So first, let's talk about the skill of finding common ground, somewhere to pour the foundation. Now, an architect doesn't just become an architect out of nowhere. It takes years of schooling, and that's because they need to understand what's underneath. They can't just look at the dirt that's on top. They have to understand the earth below, because when you want to pour a foundation that lasts, this is what matters. And as people, if we want to connect, it's the same way. It's about understanding who the person is underneath and finding a way to connect with them. I want to take you back to 7-year-old Spencer to exemplify this story. Now, 7-year-old Spencer was energetic, full of life, and chaotic. And one day, he was at recess, and he just wanted someone to play with. He wanted to kick a ball around. And he saw a boy, out in the distance, running around playing soccer. And he thought, I want to play soccer too. So I ran up to him. I said, hello, my name is Spencer. I like soccer. Can I play with you? And of course, he said yes. And that was it. That is the story of how I met my best friend, Daniel. When we're kids, connection can feel so easy. We see someone with some interest, and we think, I have the same interest, let's connect. But as we get older, it gets more and more difficult because we build walls around ourselves, and we don't leave our passions out in front of us like a ball on the playground. So as we get older, what can we do? Well, we can do something on both sides. On one hand, we can do better at opening up, at putting our passions out there into the world so people can connect with us. And on the other hand, we can ask questions, we can dig deep, we can try to break through the walls of people to understand who they are underneath so we can meet them on their common ground. Now, say you have the skill. Amazing. Is that enough to build a bridge that lasts? Well, the answer to that is no. We know that it also takes time. Now, say you're building a bridge. We all think it's going to take a long time, months. It takes years to build. And if someone came up to me and said, hey, Spencer, I want you to cross this bridge. I made it in a day. My thought would be, hell no. There's no way I trust that bridge. Because a real bridge, a strong bridge, takes time. And in the modern day, many of us think we can skip the time. Tools like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, where we can just click a button and we've made a connection. Makes us feel like maybe we don't need the time. Maybe we just need to get better at asking questions. Maybe we connect a little better. But the truth is, if we want a connection that lasts, if we want that connection to turn into a bridge, it takes time. And to exemplify this, I want to take you to 25-year-old Spencer. 25-year-old Spencer was a ballroom dancer. Now, I know before I was just a nerdy engineer, and now I'm a ballroom dancing nerdy engineer. Extra cool, I know. Bear with me. So I'm at this ballroom dancing party in California with my friends, and basically you have leads on one side, you have follows on the other, and it's basically speed connecting. You meet with someone, you dance for about a minute, show off your moves, and then move on to the next conversation. Now, all of these conversations were basically the same. Hi, I'm Spencer, I'm an engineer. What do you do? Now, over time, I adapted this script because I thought there's a lot of engineers, I'll be more memorable. So I updated it to, hi, I'm Spencer, I'm an engineer, to, hi, I'm Spencer, and I work with cars, to the current one, hi, I'm Spencer, and I work on car doors. Now, small step aside, saying you're a car door guy at a party in Los Angeles might be the least cool thing ever, but I like to think at least I was memorable. So back to the story. So I'm here at this party, I introduce myself, a lot of monotonous conversation. But then one conversation, the woman broke the script. And as opposed to engaging in the same monotonous back and forth, she said, "That's amazing. I've never known someone who was interested in car doors before. What do you love about a car door?" And for me, this was the first time I ever heard this question. I actually took a step back. I thought for a second. I blurted out, "Car door handles," which are the coolest part of a car door. We call it your first handshake with the vehicle. Yeah. And I was super excited, as you can imagine. I love talking about cars, car doors, and why they're my passion. But that was the end of our conversation a minute later. A few minutes later, I had danced with other people. By the end of the party, I was hanging out with my friends. And by the next day, I couldn't remember her name or her face. All I could remember was the one great question. So now, you're maybe thinking, 25-year-old Spencer, wow, maybe he's a bridge building master. He understands the skill that it takes. He understands that it takes time. Is he great at building bridges? Well, the answer to that is sadly no. And because the third criteria to build a bridge, the most important criteria of all, is effort. And this is something that I've come to learn, something I'm not good at. I want to take you back to this realization just last summer. It was a beautiful day in Amsterdam. The sun was shining. Out for a walk with my beautiful girlfriend, Mariana. And we were having deep conversations. It was the perfect time to talk about life, who we are, and our passions. And in that conversation, she asked me, "Spencer, I don't see you talking to many friends from before. Who do you keep in touch with from your life?" Now, for Mariana, this was a very reasonable question. She kept in touch with people from work, from high school, from middle school before. She put in the effort. But when I thought about my own life and reflected over the days, over the weeks that followed, what I realized is that I had been coasting through life. That I wasn't putting in the effort to maintain all those friendships and all those relationships that I loved. And what made it even worse was the realization that followed at Christmas just this past year, when I was with my family, happy, excited, and with my 2-year-old niece, Kira, who is amazing and happy and full of life. 2 is such a beautiful age. But here I am in Europe, living my own life. Been months since I'd seen her, updates on her life, and it felt tough. In that moment, I had this horrible image in my mind saying, what are the chances that someday I come home, I see her, and I say, "Kira, I'm so excited to see you." And she tells me, "Hi, I'm Kira. Who are you?" And with this terrible image in my mind, I knew now was the time to be better, to put in the effort. So what did I do? First, I told my sisters, look, I'm sorry I haven't been putting in the effort. I want to do better. Second, I got my American family to install WhatsApp, which is a big win for any Americans here. And third, I started putting in the effort. Text messages, sending photos, but also phone calls, video calls, so we can be up to date on each other's lives. Because what I learned along the way is that bridges aren't just a permanent landmark. A bridge is something that needs to be maintained. And with that, I want to take you back to Joseph Strauss, to the Golden Gate Bridge, finished in 1937. I want you to imagine if this amazing landmark here would have never been taken care of. No one would have maintained it, no one would have painted it. What would it look like today? And the answer to that is it would be rusted, it would be faded, and probably fallen apart in the water. And that takes me to my own life, thinking about relationships, thinking about the bridges I've built, the connections I've made, and knowing that building the bridge is not enough. We're not just in our lives to build bridges. We want bridges that survive. The strongest message of it all to me was we can't just build the bridge. Once the bridge is built, the real work begins. Thank you.